Okay, fantastic. So we are recording. So first off, hi guys, to whoever who has joined just now. Nice to meet you guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Yash. I'm a content creator here at Vertex, and I'm super excited to have you guys on today because today is like, at least from my angle, it's a very special event because we have some amazing alumni joining us today, and we're just going to see some of the amazing work they've done. And a lot of these folks are already working in the industry. So they're going to share some of their best work, how they did it, what the process was like, what their experience at Vertex was like, and also of how they got into the industry. And feel free to ask questions. So we'll go one alumni at a time. They'll present. Um, so yeah, you guys, if you have any questions when you look at their projects, pop it in the chat, or if you feel comfortable enough, unmute yourself and ask questions. So the people joining us today, first we have Ben. Ben is one of our mentors, and he's also a principal artist at Stellar Entertainment. And then we have Susanna, who works at Solid Games. We have Justin, who works as a freelancer. We have Tiger, who is at Maverick Games. And we have one more alumni, Michaela, who also works in the industry, but cannot share much details because she has signed an NDA. Um, so we'll get started with, I have a few questions for Ben, and then we'll get started with the alumni presenting their projects. So Ben, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Um, so my first question is, you have mentored a lot of students, dozens of students. What sets someone apart when applying for roles in today's industry?
Uh, it's a very good question. So, setting apart, there's quite a few things. First of all, I would say passion. When I'm interviewing people, just be passionate about that. Like, show that you actually kind of want to get into the industry, why you want to get into the industry. The games industry, is very, very passionate. Like, you have a lot of passionate people working in it. The gamers who play your games, they can play them for like hundreds, thousands of hours and stuff. So, like, it's a overall very, very passionate industry, and you kind of get that a lot with the Vertex students as well. um I mean, I don't want to kind of embarrass a lot of the people who I taught here, but the three people I taught here were very, very passionate and very, very good at what they did. So it always shows, because if you have passion, then you can kind of push yourself a bit further and kind of develop and learn in your own time and stuff as well. So I'd say that's probably like kind of one of the things. And then apart from that is just being very good at being like criticizing, or like being critical of your own work, and kind of knowing what is good and what is not good. Obviously, we kind of help you with that, being tutors and stuff here. We'll go, oh, that's a good one to put in there. We'll kind of help you and stuff. But yeah, say passion and just kind of understanding how good your work is and how you can improve.
I just want to add to that, again, just for the people listening in, I've had like the fortune of talking to a lot of people who are already based in the industry. And one of the people I spoke to was Ryan Manning, who is the CEO of Bad Rhino Studios. And he mentioned this one thing, which I think would be useful for everyone here, is if you're applying for jobs in the games industry and you see funny job descriptions that say like must have shipped one AAA title for a junior position, apply anyway. It doesn't matter if you have not shipped a AAA title. It truly doesn't matter. This is his words, not mine. I'm just a messenger. So I'm just saying that you should apply either way, because if you have the skills and if your portfolio is built in a way where it shows off your skills and it shows that you know what you're doing, you could still end up getting the job. Because the part of the reason why they put the whole must have shipped one AAA title is because they want to discourage people from applying as far as possible. Because um the last time I spoke to him, he said that he had opened up for one role at his studio, and there were 15,000 applications for that one role. So you can understand that there's like just a massive number of people just sending in their applications left, right, and center. So that's like, this is sort of like a last resort thing that some studios rely on to discourage people from applying, so that, you know, it's easier for them to work through the hiring process. This is also partly a reason why it takes so much time, because you can imagine having to go through 15,000 applications. That's like a lot of work. So yeah, if you see that sort of stuff, apply anyway, because if your portfolio is really good, you do have a very good chance. Um, Moving on, again, more questions for Ben. From Ben, from your perspective, what makes a game art portfolio quote unquote job ready? Like, what sort of a portfolio would you look at from your angle and be like, ah, okay, this person is like ready to get started in the industry?
Well, this one's actually really easy because the portfolios you're going to be seeing today when these guys present is they're job ready because they're people that have literally gone through the course and been hired from it. So it literally shows that, and their work is amazing. So you'll get some kind of actual examples. The main thing I would say is you probably want at least 3 pieces, but just it's high quality. You don't need like 50 pieces that are, averagely good quality. You just want 3 or 4 pieces that are really, really high quality, and that's what will kind of get you in at a junior level. Obviously, if you have more pieces that are high quality, great, but just kind of focus on keeping it nice and refined. Less is more in a portfolio, I'd say. And kind of on that, make sure your portfolio is kind of very focused on what you want to do. You got a lot of people who have kind of very diverse portfolio. Oh, I've done a bit of a character, I've done a gun, I've done whatever. It's like if you want to be an environment artist, make environments. If you want to be a weapon artist, make weapons. You can have some other stuff as well if you want to, but just kind of hide it away, like in like a, let's say this is my little personal part of the website, but just kind of make sure your website and your portfolio is kind of very focused on what you want to do and what they're looking for.
This is something I've heard from like just so many people who are already in the industry. Like once again, I've had like just mentioning that I've had like the fortune of speaking to a lot of people in the industry. Like I mentioned, Ryan Manning. Another person I've spoken to is Fozzie Mesmer, who is a creative director at Ubisoft. I've spoken to Nate Stephens, who has worked on like Star Wars games, and he's worked on a lot of cool titles. And I've spoke to a lot of other similar people, and this is one thing I've noticed is consistent with every single person I've spoken to is quality over quantity. So you could have like two really good pieces on your portfolio instead of 15 mediocre ones, and you would get into the industry. And I would say one good example that I can think of right off the top of my dome is one of my mentors, actually, Lena, who from what I can remember, used to work in customer service, and then she did a course at Vertex, and she she now works at Playground Games, and she had like two portfolio pieces on her art station when I checked, and those were like seriously good pieces. And she's now in working in the industry, and she's also a mentor, so that's like a really good example of like quality over quantity. And since we are also talking about a lot of Vertex students, Ben, you've worked closely with a lot of Vertex students, including some of the alumni who are present today. What's the difference between the way students at Vertex train versus aspiring artists who might be trying to train on their own, going through YouTube videos, and just trying to piece everything together?
Uh, so I'd say that probably this is a bit probably an odd answer, but the number one thing is when you get stuck, there's someone to help you. So many times, and everyone will know this, you watch a YouTube video and then they'll kind of go, oh, I'm this bit here. And you're like, no, you're trying to pause on that one frame and they haven't zoomed in enough with it. You don't know what you're doing. So that's number one thing. I'd say it's just a really kind of weird little thing there, but it kind of helps a lot. Obviously, I'm working in the industry full time. I've been in the industry for like 16 years now, professionally, and then every other tutor we have, they've all been in the industry for a long, long time professionally. So they know what is worth learning and what is not worth learning, and what is worth showing and what's not worth showing. Because, like you say, there's literally millions of hours of YouTube videos out there that are free to help you kind of learn stuff, but you literally don't have enough time to learn all that. And you are trusting the person on the YouTube video to know what they're talking about. They could be teaching you bad things, not on purpose, but they could be teaching you kind of bad habits and stuff that you don't realize. Whereas again, I've been there, I've done that, I've probably made everything that you want to make. Not, not boasting anything, but it's just the way the industry works. Like we've made it so many times and stuff that we can kind of help guide you. And if there's something I don't know, I can just go and ask someone at work, or I can ask one of the other tutors and stuff. So like just getting the answer to the questions that you just can't work out is one of the things. And then again, like I mentioned back to the portfolio and stuff, it's just help guiding you and just kind of giving you that a bit of feedback because like you could find all the right tutorials and everything and you can learn everything you want. But then when you're making your portfolio piece, um, most people, when they're kind of newly learning stuff, they don't have the right level of artistic eye. So they'll look at something and they think, "Oh, this is brilliant," and it may be really, really good, and I'm sure you've done a brilliant job on it. But also, people like the tutors, we're in hiring positions. We see hundreds of portfolios a week potentially. We know what's the little kind of 5-10% difference that's going to make you stand out from someone else. So we can go, oh, that is really, really good. But if you just move your light a tiny little bit here and make a little bloom a little bit more or something like that, then that will kind of make you stand out. So it's kind of that. It's just personalized feedback and kind of personalized tutoring really, which obviously you can't get from a YouTube video.
That is something I can attest to also because also for the people who are listening in, apart from just being a content creator at Vertex, I also am an alumni. Um, For me, I have like a wide variety of interests. I also like public speaking, as most of you might have noticed. I like to talk a lot. So, yeah, that is something I do enjoy apart from environment art. But going back to the point, my experience at Vertex has been that is probably one of the most prominent things that, in my personal experience, that I really liked about Vertex is that you get personalized feedback. And I for me, I don't have a background in game art. I have a background in journalism and mass communication. And then I was trying to switch over to game art. So when I first joined Vertex, I had a lot of questions, and it was incredibly helpful to just have so many mentors just helping me. And I could just ask them endless number of questions. And with regard to questions, again, to folks listening in, just if when you look at all of our alumni's work today, if you have questions, just ask, no matter how simple it may be. From my perspective, there's no such thing as a stupid question. The goal here is to learn. The goal here is to grow. So just ask as many questions as you have. Like genuinely, there's no judgment here. The whole goal is to learn. So feel free to ask as many questions as you want. Um, Going back again to some more questions, Ben, I'm going to bug you a little today. So, again, since we were talking about mentorship, how important is mentorship, especially for beginners and people who are like, switching careers, and who are trying to enter game art?
It kind of goes back on to a couple of bits we mentioned before, that, personalized helping and stuff. It can save you a lot of time and it can kind of help you get kind of over that one kind of video you got stuck on something. People who are switching careers, that's a really good one because I used to work designing shop floor layouts at John Lewis, which is a department store in the UK, like many, many years ago, just when I finished university. And I worked there with someone who was really, really good at doing that sort of stuff. I did not enjoy that. Literally 6 months ago, he reached out to me because unfortunately he kind of lost his job there and wanted to switch into games. And he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to like, he's mid 40s and stuff, been around for a long time. He's like, I'm gonna have to start right from the bottom, be a junior." Like, no, you've actually got a lot of transferable skills. So actually, kind of switching kind of different jobs and industries and all that sort of stuff. Like talking to a mentor, you can go, actually, let's just focus on what your good skills are, and then kind of work you out from that. So like, you get a lot of times where you get people who are like product designers or architects or something that want to switch in. I'm like, cool, let's just use your architect's ability or product design ability where showing off the work really well or whatever it is, and let's kind of focus that, and then you can kind of skip a lot of the kind of entry level parts of the industry or kind of make your way up really quickly. So that's a really useful thing for when you're kind of switching industries.
It is very interesting on how a lot of the times when we are switching industries, sometimes we don't realize how many transferable skills we really have. Even for me, coming from a background of like journalism and mass comm, I know journalism, mass comm, and game are two completely polar opposite industries. Probably there's not a lot of overlapping skills, but I would say one thing that really helped, even in journalism and mass comm, there's still some amount of creative thinking involved. And for me, that sort of like quick thinking and being very active, like that sort of translated really well into game art. And apart from that, like I also like painting as a hobby. And I didn't think painting would translate into game art at all because from my perspective, it was like, oh, 3D art, how is painting going to translate into 3D art? But just learning skills like composition, learning stuff like lighting as you're painting, that sort of stuff did translate quite well into game art really nicely. So yeah, folks, if you're questioning yourself, I'm sure there are skills, regardless of your background, that could translate very well into game art. Um, Now, for people who might be on the fence about entering, game art, who be it this game art program or the industry in general, because artists can be very, very self-critical. And there might be people who might feel, I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know if my work is good enough. What would you say to those people um, who are hesitant about entering the industry of game art and also like the game art program at Vertex?
But again, it kind of goes back to the passion. If you want to do it, go for it. Like if you don't push yourself, no one else is going to push you. To like kind of do that, you have kind of have to have that passion and drive, and you want to do it. Um, the like a couple of like bits of advice, just when you kind of get to the end. This is slightly tangential, but just one bit like key bit of advice I would say is don't apply to like when you've completed all the courses and you're ready to apply for somewhere don't apply to every single job under the sun in one go because if you happen to not be good enough for those jobs, every single person's going to say no to you at the same time, and then you have to wait like 6 months or a year and then try again. So when you kind of get to the other side and you're ready to apply, just apply to like two or three and kind of really, really focus and make sure your portfolio is ready for those, and then kind of go through that process. But the other piece of advice is just reach out and ask people. Like I'm on different like Discord groups and forums and whatever else and all that sort of stuff, and like go to events. Just go up and ask people because we're just normal people. Like we're not like any like football superstar or anything like that. We're just a normal person sits in their room, I play games, and all just the same as everyone else. So just ask us questions and reach out to people on LinkedIn, ArtStation, all that. They may not reply, but also they may reply. And if they do, then you can start talking to them, and that gets you like an in into the industry as well.
I agree. This is something, again, from personal experience, I would say most people I've interacted with within the games industry are incredibly helpful and incredibly supportive. And just being able to talk to people really does help a lot. And just so you guys know, this is coming from a former introvert. I used to be very introverted. I used to be socially extremely awkward. And I was at a stage where I was like, I don't know, what do I say to people? How do I talk to them? And oh, thank you. It's taken some practice, but I would genuinely encourage all of you to just go talk to people. And if you're coming to me saying that I don't know what to say to people, the best uh piece of advice I can say is be curious about the other person, because when you try to learn about other people, like what do you do, what are your interests, what went, even something like what was the good highlight of your day, like speaking, like when you try and learn about the other person, it'll give you multiple topics to talk about. And just be curious, and honestly, speaking to people and forming those connections will help you in the longer run. And I can say from my personal experience that all of the jobs I've gotten so far till date have been primarily through people, just talking to people, forming connections, and a lot less from applying to jobs and just filling out a form and hitting enter and then waiting for someone to get back to me. So I understand that it can be slightly intimidating, slightly challenging going to talk, walking up to someone and striking up a conversation. But I promise you, if you give yourself that little push, if you go start talking to people, even online, you don't have to show your face. You can just go strike up a conversation with someone online on Discord. And if you do that, and if you keep practicing, eventually it'll come very naturally to you. So please, I encourage you guys to go talk to people because it has been life changing for me, and I'm quite certain it'll be life changing for you guys as well.
Just one bit to add to
Um,
that. Like
yes.
if you're like you say, if you're a bit nervous to talk to people or whatever, just find the situations that you feel okay in. So like where I live in Guildford and like Surrey, There's a huge game dev scene, and like every month they have game dev drinks where everyone just goes to the pub, like literally the whole, like not just our company, like all the different companies. They just invite everyone down, and there's open events and stuff. Go to those sort of things if you're happy to go to a pub, or if you prefer to go to a convention, or what, like there's loads of different ways to meet and talk to people. So just find the one that suits you if you're kind of a bit nervous.
Yeah, and also you don't have to force yourself because forcing a conversation will always be a lot more challenging. If you just find someone interesting, you're out and about at a public event and you see someone like, oh, that person looks interesting, that person looks like, they're kind of cool. Just go try and start a conversation with them because I'm sure like initially it might what we fear is rejection. Like we immediately think that the person's gonna be like, no, but I can assure you 90% of the people are really nice. Like if you go walk up to someone and ask them, can I join this conversation? Can I be a part of it? They are most likely to say yes. So just take that chance and that experience will really help you grow. Um, Moving on, now we're gonna get to the said juicy part of the event. So we're gonna start with the alumni breaking down some of their best projects. So as I mentioned before, Ben has taught some of our the alumni who are present here. So we're going to start with Susanna, and I believe Ben has had an opportunity to mentor Susanna.
Yeah, no,
So
it's
yeah,
very. I'm sorry, I'm going to embarrass you, Susanna. Just for like very talented student, really nice person. And this is like the second or third time we've got her to do these sort of kind of intros or talks, like when I've done presentations. So she's really good at it. So don't be nervous, Susanna. You'll be fine. Brilliant work.
that's great. So Susanna, for people who don't know, I think I've already mentioned she works at Solid Games. I'm going to let Susanna introduce herself and break down her project.
Okay, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, that's amazing. Yeah, so I graduated from the game artist program about a year ago, and pretty much immediately I managed to get a job in the industry as an environment artist at a small indie studio based in Warsaw in Poland, which is where I'm from. I'm Polish. And yeah, speaking of career changes, I worked as a digital data analyst for 3 years, and then I was a campaign developer, which sounds fancy, but it was just like making newsletters in email. And I lost my job because the team that I was a part of was kind of disbanded because of like contracts and stuff, whatever. And I was kind of at a crossroads because I had to choose between, going down the corporate road again and like working jobs that weren't really too interesting to me, or trying to find a job that I would actually like. And I tried to apply to Warsaw Film School because they've got like a video game creation program. And then I got rejected, and I was like, okay, maybe this isn't for me. But then my mom was like, I found this Vertex thing on LinkedIn. Maybe that's something that you should do. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And I'm really glad that that was the decision I made. And after I finished the course, I think I sent out my resume to like 10 companies or something. Some of them I was more interested in than others, let's just say. But nothing really came out of that. And like at the end of the day, it turned out that it was random connections from my life that kind of presented me with opportunities because an old friend of mine was just working at the studio that I'm working at right now, and he was like, "Oh, well, I like your stuff. I like the stuff that you did at Vertex. Maybe I should like give your phone number to my boss, and maybe you could work for us." and yeah, basically that's what happened. And yeah, actually last week we released the game that we were working on, but it's kind of bugged, so don't buy it yet. We still have to fix it a bit. But you know, no one's mad about the way it looks, and I did most of the environment art there, so no one's complaining about that. Okay. But you're like here to listen to me talk about my project. So I think I should share my screen, but maybe I will show my art station first, even though I've got my project ready to show. Can you see my screen? Can you see ArtStation? Hope you can. I can actually check that. Zoom was
Yes.
updated. Yes, I can see that. Great. Okay, here's my first ever scene made in Unreal Engine. I had zero experience prior to making this scene other than doing prop presentation exercises at Vertex and the Term 1 project, which was a prop presentation when you do one model and then you showcase it the best you can. So I was kind of learning as I went, like everything, when making this scene. And I'm showing you my art station because I kind of lost a few files and I couldn't access stuff like this beautiful progress GIF, which kind of shows the block out and then the stage in between, even though there was more of them, and then the final look. Yeah, here are some materials that I made. You're about to see all of that in Unreal. I can maybe send you the link and I will just hop off of ArtStation and jump into Unreal. I don't know if that's grammatically correct. Okay, whatever. This is my scene. As you can see, it looks pretty cool, but if you zoom out, it's actually just a box with a bunch of stuff in it, as many scenes tend to be. I think I decided to make this particular scene because at the time when we were supposed to, you know, choose the topic for our scene, there was a DLC for The Sims 4 that came out that was like set in a Mediterranean world. And I started building a bathhouse in The Sims. And then the term 2 task was to create a modular scene. And I was like, okay, arches, columns, that's like the best thing you could have for a modular scene. So I decided to just do that in Unreal. And yeah, I used a bit of a mix of workflows in this scene because some of the some of the props that I made were at first sculpted in ZBrush for a high poly model and then baked onto a low poly model. Like for example, these arches, I made them that way. I also made the columns that way, even though at first I wanted to make 4 different versions, I think, which is something you can kind of see here because at the blockout stage, I gave them different colors and that's, you know, that should translate. But I quickly learned that it's not really necessary for this type of scene because I didn't really have any like close-up shots I actually have different lighting for different shots. I think this one uses, yeah, this one. And yeah, you don't really get like really up close to the columns. And I remember that I wasn't sure whether I wanted to create this environment as one that's, you know, kind of still in use and like in good condition, or whether I wanted to make it like kind of decayed and like a ruin. And when I started sculpting the columns, when I still thought that I could make a bunch of versions of them, they kind of ended up looking as if someone was shooting at them. And that made literally no sense for this scene. So yeah, I was kind of going back and forth with that. And yeah, I think the arches, the columns, and the stairs were props that used the mid-poly workflow. I mean the high poly to low poly, and the other ones used a mid-poly workflow where you make a model that's a bit more detailed than low poly would be, and then you just put a material on and you don't do any baking. And that's what I did for most of the furniture and like smaller props, because yeah, there was no reason to sculpt that really. And everything else, like for the floors and walls, that's just planes with materials on them that were created in Substance Designer, which is a great program that lets you create your own tileable materials, which I also kind of struggled with during the creation of this scene, because that was my first time interacting with it. I think this uses a different light. And yeah, I needed some time to do a little bit of trial and error with Substance Designer. And yeah, I mean, looking at this scene, I would probably do some stuff a bit differently, but I'm still very proud of this project. I also kind of dabbled in VFX, but that's like, you know, really just a bit, because I really wanted to incorporate fire and water in my scene. And I made some of that. To be completely honest with you, I haven't really done any VFX since, because I haven't had a reason to. But at the time of creating this scene, I felt like I knew enough to know what I'm looking for. So I just found the right YouTube tutorials. But that was kind of the thing with joining Vertex in the first place, because before I even thought of applying to that art school in Warsaw that I talked about before, I tried to learn some 3D art stuff by myself, but I just had no idea where to start. And I think that one of the best parts about Vertex is that, as Yash said, you have a ton of people who are there to help you, who are there to answer your questions. And at some point, you just kind of get all the knowledge that you need to know what you're looking for. And yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah, also towards the end of creating this scene, I was like, Ben, I would really love to have some floating floral petals. And at first, he kind of didn't know what I was talking about, and we were like trying different things with like petals that were kind of falling down. And I was like, no, 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 I want them on the water. I want them moving. How do we do that? So literally we spent one of our classes just modeling out a really simple shape. And then we made a material, which I should probably be able to find. Okay, probably here. That's not it. Okay, Jesus. And
I just want to quickly hop
yeah.
in while you're finding that material, just to mention that in case you guys find the visuals a bit laggy, it's because of Zoom, because Zoom usually does that every time I've seen people present something in Unreal Engine, and if it's on live on Zoom, it can get a bit laggy. So yeah.
Does this mean that you can't really see what I'm showing you?
No. We can. I'm sure we can see it. It's more that
Okay.
sometimes, on some occasions, this can get a bit laggy. That's all.
All
I'm
right.
sure people can see it. Folks, if you want to confirm, okay, there are people saying we can.
Okay. That's good. Sorry for that little panic moment there. Yeah, so I just told Ben what I wanted to do, and he was like, okay, let's set up the material. And we made it moving. Also, I probably don't have this plugin installed right now because I've switched from Windows 10 to Windows 11 since I did the course. And luckily, Ben was always like, you have to back up your projects, you have to have them on an external drive, you have to keep them safe. And I was like, okay, if I didn't listen, I wouldn't be here right now because I wouldn't be able to show you the project because it's absolutely gone from my PC, but I had it on an external drive. But this is a newer version of Unreal than the one that I did this scene on initially. So I don't have that plugin, but Ben was ready to show me this really cool thing where you can just like drop objects on shapes that have collision. And basically that's how we did these flower petals. We just faked collision on the water. And yeah, they're there. Yeah, that's the scene. Mm.
Folks, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. Anything related to the project, or even Zuzana's journey from, as a student to now working in the industry, or her experience at Vertex. And while the chat warms up a little, I actually have a few questions. Um, from like, given that you mentioned that you were switching industries, I'm sure there's always um every artist has that one moment of like, oh my God, what am I doing? What was yours? What did you have that sort of like a moment for either this project or any of the other projects that you've worked on? Like, okay, this is like a slightly chaotic idea, but I'm not sure what I'm doing and how I'm going to make this work, and eventually it turned out good.
I mean, I had a really serious discussion with my parents and with my boyfriend, who I've been with for a few years, and we like basically, live together, buy everything together. And I was like, okay, I'm probably not going to be able to work while I really, really focus on this course because I wanted to put all of my time into it for those 9 months. And yeah, I will have to, use up my savings while I don't really work, and just hope for the best. But honestly, during my time at Vertex, when I was just, so focused on creative work, I just enjoyed it so much. And I kind of like didn't even let myself think that this isn't going to work. I was always like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I see like no other option where this doesn't work, because it just feels right to have chosen this.
That's great. And also, um, obviously, like we mentioned before, that you worked with Ben while you were working on this project. What was his input like, and how did it, like help you through the entire process of creating this whole environment?
I think that because I was so inexperienced, I had some difficulties with like managing um, my time and the you know the amount of stuff that I can actually put into my scene. Oh yeah, gosh, the roughness maps. I'm really lucky that I wanted this scene to be like, all wet because it's a bathhouse and it's full of water. Because at the time I was like, what do you mean? What's roughness? What, this is so glossy. Uh I'm not sure why, but I guess it fits. Like if I did this scene today, I would probably calm down on the glossiness a bit, and I would maybe add some puddles or something instead of making everything look like it's incredibly wet. But yeah, I remember like showing the block out at the beginning of term 2 and being all like, and I want to do this, and I want to do that, and maybe I would do this other thing. And Ben was like, okay, that's really cool. That's a great idea. But remember that you have 3 months to do this. And one of the skills that's important in this industry is being able to manage your time correctly and knowing how much you're able to do in a certain time frame.
I I think that's a relatable moment for like a lot of artists, including myself, because for me, I think I had this moment in like term 1 where we were just supposed to make like a simple prop, and my mentor was Lena at the time, and I'm Indian, so like my inspiration for like a prop came from like a lot of Indian wedding jewelry, like bridal jewelry, which is like really
Mhm.
intricate ornaments. And I remember like just going up to her, showing her a picture of like this really intricate, beautiful, like nice broad necklace for like bridal jewelry. And I was like, I want to make this, and I'm going to do this and that. And she was like, let's chill. Let's chill for a moment there. And let's try something a little more simpler, yeah, just because you have not done this before. And much like Ben, she also said you have 3 months to do this. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think you can pull this off just yet. So I do appreciate that though from the mentors, that they were always pretty direct and honest, that if you were shooting a bit too far beyond your skill set, they would let you know. And I think that's been incredibly useful. Um, so that's been great. And another question for you would be, now that you're working in the industry, um, would you be able to connect the dots between this project and um, now that the thing that landed you a job in the industry? Like, did this project play a part in what sort of skill set did you learn just from working on this project alone that now helps you a lot in the industry?
Oh gosh. I mean, the substance designer has been incredibly useful because in my in the studio that I work at, everyone is kind of a beginner because not to get too much into that, but they are all architects actually, and they were an architectural studio making visualizations for like developers and stuff. And then they were like, okay, but that's not really that cool. What if we actually made a game? And they just like taught themselves Unreal and all of that stuff. But that also means that um, sometimes they just have no idea how to do stuff. Like I'm currently the only person there really who's able to like create a material from the ground up, like just, you know, make something up and then create it, or like texture a prop really well in Substance Painter. So that's been incredibly useful. And actually, in terms of getting the job, I think that the other project that I did for the third term was kind of more instrumental because they wanted me to make a lot of outdoor camps during that um, uh, during the work there. And I think that the art director of the company was like, okay, she knows how to set up a tent. That's really good, and it's promising. I can see
Uh,
that Nick asked how important
yeah.
it is to be able to create your own materials. I think it's it's important, but it's not really that important. It kind of depends on what you want to do, because in my case, I think it's a pretty unique situation when I'm the only person who's able to do that. But there are people who are only material artists and they only make materials for games and they don't really do props. At the same time, it's good to know how to texture your model if you want to be a 3D artist. But that doesn't necessarily require you to be able to make materials on your own in Substance Designer. And a lot of people just use Painter, which is kind of like a 3D Photoshop, let's say. But it's very useful, and I think that the recruiters like it when you say that you know how to make your own material, just in case.
Um, Now I'm gonna do this one thing for all the alumni who are presenting today. If they have been taught by Ben, I'm just going to ask Ben to spill some tea on how it was mentoring these students. Um, so thank you, Susanna. That was really interesting. It was super cool seeing the projects you worked on. Super cool knowing your experience and how the entire journey has been. Next up, uh next up we have Justin. Justin has been working as a freelancer. Justin, thanks for joining us. And I'm sure Ben had an opportunity to mentor Justin as well. So I'm curious to know what Ben has to say.
Yeah, let him go
Uh,
first.
well, Justin was definitely an interesting person to teach because he wants to make like at the time he wanted to make like the most complex materials possible, and then kind of got himself in a little twist at times doing that. But then he's probably the most self-driven and kind of passionate person to kind of learn from, like learning himself outside of work and stuff. So he's done a brilliant job. You'll see that in his work here. Like most of the stuff on this was not down to me. It was, as in, not down to me guiding him, because most of the stuff he was doing, like outside of it and all that, is really, really good.
Thank you, Ben. That means the absolute world to hear. But I will admit, these pieces do not come out of thin air. They still came from Vertex School because what they put me through is leads to greatness. You know what I mean? Let's see. So I'm Justin. I'm not gonna put a studio title on my name. I just do 3D art. That's what I do, and I'm lucky enough to find opportunities when they're needed the most. I need something, and then something pops up, and I'm doing 3D art again. So it's always a blast. Um, been doing this for a few years, and to be honest, every single day that goes by since I've left Vertex school is a bigger lesson in business and 3D art than I could have ever expected. The education doesn't stop once you leave here, and that's okay. And I went to college before Vertex school, so I was really done learning. I was so done learning, but it never stops. So I'll just dive into, I think, my environment that is my, I guess, accidentally a little claim to fame. I guess I could just share my screen. Let's see. Yes, screen two, please. And I want to make sure that this is working. Suddenly all your windows are minimized and you're back. Okay. So if you want to learn literally like how I do every single thing, I've actually taken from like YouTube, and there's some things I wanted to apply from Vertex, and I just created this really like Frankenstein pipeline. You know, I've recently released this. This was a lot of fun, and the project I'll show you in a minute is the origin story of being able to do something like this. So check out my art station literally anytime. Like I said, I'm a freaking freelance artist, all right? There's no W-2 coming my way. So check me out. Fantastic. So this one right here was my third piece for Vertex School. We could start with term one because I do want to say each term brought me a completely different experience. I'm so happy I actually made something realistic in the first term because everyone knows what they're doing. They're all professionals, and 95% of things you can get hired for in a realistic way, it's going to be realistic. So if you want to do yourself a favor from whatever you learn, whether it's here at Vertex or YouTube, practice some realistic art, because then once you know, you get a little bit of a sharper eye and you figure out what tools are used to create something. And from that point on, then you learn to break it, right? So I made the PlayStation first, and I'm like, okay, this is how a cobweb would grow in between the ambient occlusion of a leg peg. And then I was like, well, I could do that for every single mesh for the rest of my life, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get a lot done. Unlike the other students at Vertex, they are fast. They are so fast at making realistic art. I couldn't tell you where they got these skills from. They sit down and create something amazing. But I need to abstract when I look at a concept, when I look at a painting. I find a lot of success in being able to take a step back, and instead of giving it a detailed dissection and analysis, I like to just abstract the shapes I'm seeing, abstract the colors, much more like how I would observe a painting. Depending on your North Star, you're going to be able to go very, very far with that, type of mindset. It really does depend what your goals are, though. So for this one, it's all the same, principles that Zuzana was kind enough to show us. They're just being used in a different goal. So if you want to work on the new Indiana Jones, you're going to understand that the materials you're creating, they're not that different, but you're overlaying secondary and then tertiary detail on top. Yes, it comes with skill, but it also comes with time. And so I really enjoy the fact that stylized art allows me to kind of tackle environments a little bit faster. So I don't want to waste too much of your time with just talking about my portfolio, because we're going to look at this one. By the time Vertex School was done, I published this one on the last day, and things kind of popped off from there. People are so kind. People are so wonderful. I only still do this because people can see when you are passionate about something, and they're kind enough to not be shy about, like, letting you know that you're doing good. A huge thing on my channel is it doesn't matter how many keyboard shortcuts you learn, how many applications you send, or how many portfolio pieces you have in this world where all of us are learning remotely online. For example, this right here, where there are 30, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 people, I'm not counting. But no matter how many people are here, we're all trying to take a leap in our life based off like remote work, and something where you're doing these classes online. So one of the best parts about working with Ben was that maybe he could tell I didn't necessarily need too many specific questions answered. I needed encouragement, and maybe a student didn't need encouragement and they needed all the technical questions answered. But Vertex School was really great at adapting and seeing where their students were and sort of meeting them on that level. Because I know I had practice before this, and some students didn't have practice before this, but each instructor really tailored their advice to seeing where they were at, and that was really awesome because it helped my specific journey. So that was really cool. This thing will break if I show you guys in Unreal, but this is just the animation sequence. The whole point of this one is just, again, when I saw the original concept art, I'm like, can Unreal Engine help me abstract this information rather than say, let's bring it straight up to life in 3D by making everything nanite and lumen and polygonal based? Because video game art, you're going to master Unreal Engine, and then you might get a job where they're like, all right, let's use Unity. You know, you're not going to have lumen and ray tracing and all these things at your side. It's really fun to break things down into the basics. And if you're a little older, I made a post about this just a while ago. Every game we played growing up with looked like this. Okay, I'm not reinventing the wheel here in any sense of the word. This is just like Sly Cooper, Crash Bandicoot, with a little bit of Genshin Impact. But it was a great experience because it looks open, it looks humongous, and maybe at first glance you're like, "There's no way this dude freaking did this in a couple weeks." But here we are. They're just some simple low poly trees that I'm using some shading and lighting tricks to give the impression of more. And in this scenario, this piece really helped me because I suppose there are recruiters that are looking for that sort of skill. It's the concept of doing more with less, right? If two assets are going to get the job done, and you know you could duplicate it 16 times, and you also know that you could skip the tiny crack sculpting phase because maybe you can get away with that in Designer. Those are things that are appreciated and help you make your art faster and let you have more art to give out and let you go, oh my God, I did that. And so the more you learn, the more powerful you become. For example, I knew I didn't want to take this into Substance Painter. So I was like, let's learn some new shading tricks. So we're getting some world-aligned brushstrokes, RGBA masks that I'm then turning into custom colors. And I get kind of obsessed with being like, well, I don't want to do something twice, right? So I don't want one roof to have moss at the left and then make a new Substance Painter file so I can have moss on the right. And that typically makes my life torture because shaders are difficult, but the better you get at them, the easier life becomes, I promise you. And then because I don't have this in, I don't know what happened to ArtStation, man. They broke their image preview. The reason why this progress piece is a little bit different is because I knew that if I wanted to actually capture the scene, I was going to have to focus on mood more than anything else. There's no detail in here that makes you go, he is such a good sculptor. There's no material in here that makes you go, he is so good at designer. It is just me looking at what is an amazing painting and going, I need to copy these colors and figure out the mood, and we're going to get there. So I really, this is not meant to sound conceited. I really like to think that me being able to do what I do is an example that anyone can do this. If you find your unique strengths in 3D, because there is no way you're going to be able to master it all, double down on that. If you have extra fun with that, triple down on that. People will see you. People will totally see you. And I think the games industry is so fun that everyone wants to be in. And so if everyone wants to be in, you do want to learn how to stand out. And if that means you're extra good at sculpting like pebbles on the ground, you should do that. And people are going to love the fact that the pebbles have all the love in the world in them. You know what I mean? So it was based off this concept. Highly recommend checking out Grady Frederick's channel. He is he's really introspective, think like me, but he knows how to communicate better. So he'll just go off while creating a wonderful piece in real time. Even if we zoom in, we could tell the details aren't there, right? These could be concrete stones. These could be random rocks that were put together. This cow could okay, that's a white cow. It's not rocket science, but you know, there's not a ton to go off of. A lot of details are getting, you know, faded into the back. And I originally saw a photorealistic version of this uploaded on ArtStation. And so after my term 2 piece, I was like, no, I can't do it. It's gonna suck. But I did it anyways, and Ben let me, and it didn't suck that bad, right? This was this allowed me to keep the ball rolling. Liardi Studios bought the project file from me and uploaded it on the Fab Marketplace, which I think helped me get my name out there a little bit. And then just now, as I was looking up like countryside, I'm like, oh, I need my piece. I saw that people had downloaded the environment from Fab and then did some Ghibli lighting tests. So I thought I'd share that. I'm like, what the heck? They're taking the scene and just like doing the this is two different these are two different artists. That's insane. That's insane. So without further ado, let's hop into Unreal Engine. It's hard to be able to break down the exact pipeline that I did for this because I wrote like a huge script and put it on Stylized Station on their YouTube channel. And then I pissed him off and he deleted the video. So now you get the true version of the pipeline. As you saw in that reference photo, we started with grass and a stylized fog shader. The grass is nothing special. That is actually Procreate and or Photoshop because I have one texture atlas that I literally just was hanging in bed looking at I think it was an 80 level article by an old Unreal Engine artist that made a really nice desert scene, and they had drawn some really shrubby foliage. I just sat down on Procreate and you know, redrew some of that, and I was able to populate my scene with it. Let's go ahead and open up what I'm actually talking about instead of talking your ear off. If Unreal crashes, I'm sorry. And I'm going to let some shaders load. It's a good time before the shaders load to kind of see the skeleton of this. And to get a real naked look at it, I'm going to go to the post-process volume and turn off post-process materials. This is the actual scene. I have seen YouTube videos do better than this in a couple minutes, but what's crazy is that as long as I'm happy with the progress I'm making, I can keep going with the project with as much confidence in the world. So I'm really going at a step at a time here. And when I looked originally at the piece, you know, we see this in the original painting, this very, you know, painterly sky. And what's insane is that maybe if you were to go to an interviewer and they open up the project, they could be upset, but I doubt it. But this is a second landscape. Like, we're really, every time you're trying to create art and it's not going in a final game, you want to be able to use a little bit of VFX philosophies in your work. For example, if the image is good, it is doing its job on ArtStation, right? No one is opening up the third person template and is going to be walking around there unless you record that video. Call it controlling the narrative, but you really do. I know that's a bit abstract for showing you what is just a landscape, but really that's so rude to Unreal Engine. It had a panic attack when I rotated it 45 degrees, but sometimes you got to figure out like what you need to do to get the art done. And so this was a good learning experience. You know, like I said, less is more. You can't tell, maybe you can't tell in the final render that it's just one cliff mesh, sculpted in ZBrush, and the trim smooth border brush is definitely my favorite for this style because I didn't want a lot of surface detail, you know, on these cliffs. And you typically should for realistic assets, and I think you should go deeper with your chisel and just keep pounding it. Because it's just the difference between a little more aging and a little more storytelling, but focusing more on the forms in this style is a really good bet. You're not wasting time with too much detail, and you're able to focus on just what's a great silhouette. So it ended up looking a little modular, and we're able to duplicate this around. We can see that they have some brush strokes across, and that's coming from the same system that I showed earlier with the roof, where we have this overlay and we can change the brush stroke strength on each of these assets. And that way, I'm able to actually define pretty much the final look of it in Unreal Engine, and I don't feel tied down to the way that these brushstrokes may have looked in Substance Painter. Trying to see if I actually have the scale. Yeah, there we go. We could change the look up pretty easily, and I use that same function, for that landscape. That's where these big yellow brushstrokes are coming from. Maybe a different technical artist would have gone even crazier with some insane height blending and have that parallax to look extra painterly. But really, like I said, it's when I'm observing the piece, I'm just noticing what contributes to what color. And then it's really fun to find out, well, just how do you do that in 3D? Another huge trick is that for this foliage, we could see that, yes, there's work put into them. But hey,
We can't hear you just this second. No.
dude, this battery life on this headset's like 30 minutes. My apologies, everyone. So super funny. I just wanted to do one more tip really quick. Foliage is a huge thing in video games. Materials are huge things in games. When you really dive into something, you're going to find out that there's an expert for everything. If you really love a certain element of 3D, like plants, become the foliage guy. There's no shame in that. If you really love substance designer, become the designer guy. This more stylized cartoony piece has done a lot for me. And so in abstraction to that, I also want to let you know that it's okay to also learn a little bit of everything, because by the time you find your expert thing that you're going to be the best at, your previous experiences will will just make you look better in the workplace. Yeah, I can sculpt the Sistine Chapel. And of course, I know the shader that can actually project it onto the building itself. You're a huge asset. Have your biggest strength and then find a little bit of everything. That's my way of saying, look how undetailed this foliage is. But because I put, a bit of time into figuring out how it can look good in the final scene, I was able to find the right shader that helped me project it towards the camera. Don't know why it's not responding now. It's probably on a different tree. And look at this. Look at this. I zoom out and more cheats. I knew I needed a vignette from the clouds. I'm not sure if it blew up my computer. I knew I needed a vignette from the clouds near the front of the camera, and yet I did not have time to make a cloud mesh. At Vertex School, you got 6 weeks. And so, as amazing as the mentorship is, and as amazing as the classes themselves are, and as amazing as homework is, and being able to be on time, I don't even think the work stops there, because Vertex School is a really good amount of education for the price. For me, it sounds like I'm shilling, but it just worked out for me, right? And that's because I went to private university. And so I'm not saying the value is 20,000 times better, but it's close to 10 times better considering the price. It did do a lot for me. And so, like I said, with 6 weeks, they want you want to get your money's worth out of that, especially, this doesn't come out of nowhere. And so during this experience, um, I wanted to make sure that I was learning afterwards and just finding cheats and tricks to improve my portfolio. That's what this is. This isn't a god tier project. This is me throwing myself into the fire, figuring out how can I make a good portfolio piece. And that's why I'm kind of breaking the edges around here and showing you guys, kind of underplaying it. It's still really, really hard work. And I like to think I have an eye for what I do, but you shouldn't have to get bogged down in detail. And I think that's important to remember in the age of AAA graphics, where you will see every damn, like, like poor skin and everything. Try to learn to express yourself in 3D so that your goals are stronger, right? Does this piece even call for photorealism, or is what I'm trying to create inspired by other works and I'm just putting a quixel texture on it just because, think your art through, because I'm more of an artist than a technical guy. So I'm like, You know, this is your soul. Put everything you can into it, and during the time frame that you have, learn to do it in the fire. One more last thing, if I can open this up. Please, oh please, because I have a lot of fun with this one. So if I go to the materials and I go to, come on. Oh, I need your material instance. Why am I going crazy today? And where's my instances? I hid it in functions. Let's go ahead and look for the grass. Where could you have run off to? So I think in the courses I did, I pretty much cover like, you know, the nitty gritty of this, but stylized grass I find is so important. And same for stylized foliage, and including realistic foliage, because it's mostly about how the light is blending into it. That is all this is. All foliage takes in subsurface scattering. All foliage has a base color. All foliage has opacity maps, unless you're using nanite. But the secret with stylized foliage is just the fact that they do not cast shadows. Why am I making a big deal out of this? Because if you know that they should not cast shadows, your stylized art literally becomes 1,000 times better. I think I wasted like 2 years creating grass fields and going like, why do they just look like crap? So if you're in this Zoom and you hear that, just turn off your shadows. That is what's going wrong. But another huge thing about that is the color wind. I'm typically putting this in all of my scenes these days. I'm wondering why it's not showing up. You know, my materials are not responding to me today, but you know, it's okay because we can at least see them in action. This isn't a technical deep dive. But in every single one of my like stylized scenes these days, I'm putting in what is basically a noise map, a little bit of distortion, and a panner. And I'm just overlaying color on that because along with the wind itself, this gives so much movement to the scene. Uh, right, this scene doesn't have fire or rain or like those crazy little wind whiffs. All we have to our advantage is simple grass wind, camera animation. And so I'm thinking, what could we do to add a little spice? So if your scene is simple in like an outdoor field, this is definitely one of my favorite artistic things to do. Look up, man, what do you even look up? Oh, there's an awesome artist on YouTube called, her name is Victoria, and her last name is really hard to pronounce, but you look up stylized tree tutorial. She has paved the way for a ton of this research. And so honestly, I'm a little conflicted because I've always wanted to do a lot of photorealistic art as well. And there's only so much time in the world. And so I've decided to kind of double down on what I'm passionate about. And that's what my whole life's been about. I knew I couldn't get straight A's if I went to college for chemistry. I knew I couldn't put 100% into something I wasn't passionate about. And yes, that is her channel. So if you're watching this and you are interested in 3D game art, there is no reason why you shouldn't take a shot on yourself. Again, I'm not a shill, but I really I had so much fun here and things are going well. And that's amazing. I've come from very hard experiences and I won't get into them here. But if this can allow for someone to completely reset their life so long as they have the will and passion, then that is just something fucking amazing and deserves to be shared. Sorry for swearing, but that's amazing. Okay, I'm done. Let me know if you guys have any like shader questions. Let me go back and read the stuff.
There was one question. Dana was asking, is this project explorable with all the shaders intact, or is it more like an art piece?
So I know no, all the shaders are intact. If anything, yes, this is extremely undervalued on the fab marketplace. You can dive in and get all my secrets for a couple bucks. Which is
Um,
really cool. I try to make sure my Unreal projects are flexible. It adds a lot more fun.
Folks, if you have any questions for Justin, feel free to pop them in the chat, or if you're comfortable enough, feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions.
Yeah. And
Um, I have a question for you, Justin. You can correct me if I'm
sure.
wrong, but I did notice 80 level actually covered one of your projects. What was that experience like, just having a platform as popular as 80 level just covering some of your work?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So while let's say your life is a subscriber count, right? It's not bringing you a lot of subscribers, but what it is bringing you is, and you're getting me excited just saying this. It's bringing you the correct eyes. The eyes you want to see your work are looking at that. And so days, weeks, months later, when you're in an interview and they go, "Oh, I saw you on 80 level," that's a good feeling. You know what I mean? You get the right eyes to see your work, and yeah, it's better than a million subscribers that don't know like what you're doing. You know what I mean?
And also just going back to a point that you had mentioned about how Vertex has like 6 weeks to complete. These projects are like that 3 months to complete.
Oh,
Um,
12 weeks, 12. Well, okay. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I'm just now remembering I actually did two environments term two, 2 and 6 weeks. And then basically I showed my first one to Ben, and Ben has a great eye and said, I don't like it. And I was like, all right, what do we do? And so that was a total adventure. So I think it's 12 weeks per term actually.
yeah. I just wanted to mention one thing that like while students get like 3 months to or 12 weeks to complete one project, I think that works in a good way because it that time constraint kind of teaches you how to scope your
Yes,
project because when you like eventually when you do end up in a studio or if you're working with a studio, be it as a freelancer, be it as an employee, you don't get indefinite amount of time for the projects that they're working on. They're all very time bound, so you need to learn how to scope the project, how to
I
create
agree.
how to create more efficient workflows that are tailored to you because efficient workflows
100%.
is like a different thing for every person, right? So
Hmm.
um
There are tricks I still need to learn from Susanna and from all my other peers because they've developed, you know, their own pipelines that have helped their art, and that's really incredible too. But 100% the difference between this and college is that yes, you're putting in a ton of work into both of them, but the classes in college are segregated to let's say your math, your material studies, your modeling studies. Vertex is more you have 12 weeks with the same amount of time, but the expectations are bigger. It doesn't matter if you put 20 hours into materials or 20 hours into modeling, you need to get it done. And you learn like, you know, how to navigate that. And that's not a regrettable skill to get at all.
and also another thing is the time limit kind of teaches you. I don't know if this applies to everyone. This certainly applies to me, is that it teaches you how to think less because I I can go into like a perpetual cycle of just overthinking my project because I'm a bit of a perfectionist and it's kind of like in a not so good way and my perfectionism can get in the way of completing my project. So the time frame kind of forces me to think a little less and that inevitably helps me create better art because when I don't stress and think too much about it and I just create something, it makes it that much more easier. I see a few questions coming in for you.
Okay,
Do
I'll go with Theodora. She was wondering how did you go about doing the 80 level article? When they reached out, it's a pretty simple story. I was like, forget everything I'm doing. I've always like that's so kind of them to offer. So screenshot after GIF after paragraph. I sent them like a 20-page Google Drive and I went way too hard in the paint, but I think I answered all the questions that I would have had when I started Vertex in that article. So there's no regrets on that either. Yeah, they I think it hit like 1,000 likes on ArtStation, which is I cannot do that again if you paid me. I don't know how that happened, but yeah, they reached out once they saw that. And so pretty cool. And then on that topic, in a workplace, how many projects do you have to complete? Man, oh man. The the only true answer I can give you, and I don't know, feel free to disagree, is that that answer that can only be answered by your own boundaries. Because I think if you allow it, games are huge. If you want to say, let me sculpt 10,000 freaking cliffs, they will let you. And then if you give them the expectation that you do that all the time, that that's how it goes in every single workplace in the world. You know, if you're the best salesman, they're going to want you to be selling more. So you can easily be caught in a situation where you're doing art all day. So how many is more like how much can you handle? I'd say show your skill, be confident that you know what you're doing, and then when you're assigned something, okay, they're typically done in sprints these days. So recently I had a sprint where we needed to go from 0 to hero in 2 weeks. And with that, I did not have a okay. Let me clarify. My work is very freelance. So I couldn't tell you a lot about how the team distribution would go into the final product in something longer than a 6-month period. Let me just say the answer to that is a lot. The answer is a lot of work if you allow it to be. So lay down your professional boundaries.
And before we move on, I just want to add one last thing is just this one thing regarding confidence. Like I know throughout this so far throughout this event, we have a lot of us have mentioned just like being confident, whether it being in terms of executing your work or being confident in
Mhm.
terms of speaking to people. Um, Confidence, I'm just saying confidence will come a lot from action and a whole lot less from mindset. It's one thing to like
That's
think
huge.
that you're confident, but if you just do it, like you can be nervous, you can be scared, you can be having a whole you could be jittery, but if you do it regardless, even though you're feeling that way, if you go ahead and do it, there will come a point in time where you would have done it so many times that you literally have physically built confidence. It's kind of like a little like building a building, like you one brick
Hmm.
at a time, it just comes together.
If you're
So
new to
yeah.
this, the craziest thing to me is that if you just keep going, like literally you're like, I love this and this is what I want to do. If you just keep going, it doesn't matter how smart or talented you are, you will turn around and look at like who you were just a year or two before that and go, dang, just because I took action, I've come so far. And so that's an incredible thing. Don't take that for granted. You will be so proud of where you are, even if you don't necessarily see the steps ahead right now. That's for sure.
Well, that has been an absolute treat. Moving on, we next up is Michaela.
Thank you for having
Mich
me.
Thank you, Justin.
Hmm.
Michaela is working in a game studio. Unfortunately, we can't give out more details because, like I mentioned previously, that she has signed an NDA, so we're gonna have to respect that. Again, Ben, I'm sure has worked with Michaela before, so I'm curious to know how that went. Ben, if you want
Yeah.
to, yeah.
So Michaela was a bit of a different one to the other two people I taught. So I taught Michaela in the term 4 where we do a group project where people are making a game. Justin, are you able to? There you go, perfect. Where we make a game as a group. So I worked. Michaela was already amazing when I started working, like guiding them in the group. So I can't claim any benefit, any benefit to her for the amazing art you're about to see, which is really, really good and really interesting in working with the group. Some really nice lighting skills as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know if my presentation is gonna live up to Justin's. But yeah,
Literally, I'm so excited to see yours. I know I was rambling the whole time. You're incredible. You're gonna do
that's
amazing.
great. It's good.
Mhm.
Um, Here, I'll share my screen. If I can figure that out. Ben had a lot of input for me for my art station and my term 3 project. I went back in and did some extra work. I'm still trying to share my screen. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that.
That's fine. We can see it now.
Um, so yeah, some bits about me. I am currently interning at a studio. I can't really talk too much about it, because of an NDA, and I can't really say anything that isn't public, and nothing is public yet. But before Vertex, I got my bachelor's degree in game design in 2019. Uh, After that, I spent a few years applying to hundreds of jobs, teaching myself programs for a couple of years. And I kind of felt like a wheel stuck in the mud. I wasn't making as much progress as I had wanted to, so I wanted to streamline my education a bit. So that's what led me to Vertex. Um, and here's my portfolio. Let me link it in the chat for you guys to look at. But here I had my term one project, which was Panasonic CRT TV. My second project was the windmill or the mill. And then my third project, my term three project, is the city below, which is what I'm gonna dive into today. I'm a little bit scatterbrained, so I kind of put together a little presentation. It might be a little boring, but I'm gonna try and not to like be in this presentation the whole time. All right, so for me, for this project, a really important step for me was to have a really good foundation. I scoured ArtStation for a long time looking for a project that was really clear and was also within the scope of one term. I knew that my project had a lot of planks in it. So for my pure ref board, which I love pure ref is great. Um, I needed something that had a lot of planks. So I went through um, ArtStation and found some other 3D projects that had a lot of plank heavy assets that also matched my mood, as well as some like real life examples and some pieces that were really high quality that I could strive for. And then on the side, I of course have my lighting and mood for the part that is underground. Gray boxing. Gray boxing was huge. It really helped me solidify a really good composition. Um, as well as like putting my finished pieces in and swapping out the assets like super quickly was awesome. I'm really glad I spent this much time gray boxing out my scene, as well as like laying out all my lighting and getting my mood the way I wanted it to. Um, and then I jumped into production. Once I had all of my pieces kind of planned out of what I wanted to make, I started working biggest to smallest. So first I started with the castle, which since it's down below, uh, I didn't need to put that much work into it. So I made a modular kit, focusing on the silhouette because that was going to be the most important part of this castle. Um, the UVs are very simple. The texture's very basic. It's just slapped on there, as you can see. And I can show you in Unreal what that looks like. But here you can see it down there. Uh, it's, you know, it's really far from the camera and it's very obscured by lots of fog and stuff. So saving a lot of time and not going too deep into the detail was really good for this project. Let's see. And here you can see it in a really grainy picture. And my typical asset pipeline for this was ZBrush to Maya, Substance Painter, and Unreal Engine. This is not the best example of a low poly, like good topology or anything, but it worked. Um, I think I used Nanite for this project. But anyways, I wanted to sculpt in a lot of like rough grain and a lot of like edge damage to a lot of my planks. Um, I had actually only made the 3 that you see on the left. And since you're texturing both sides, all you have to do is flip it. And now I have 8 variations of planks, which was really good, to not have too much repetitive detail in my scene. Yeah, that's how you see it. And from that point, I felt like my environment needed to have a story to it. Um, I wanted to know like what story is my environment trying to tell? You know, how old is it? Where was it? What happened here? And what can I say without using words? Uh, so this is kind of like a little story that I've written out to kind of guide myself. A farm shed turned into a smuggling hideout. The farm shed had been abandoned for a while before being taken over by a group of smugglers, and these smugglers are not very clean, and they pass their time gambling and drinking and partying, etc. So I started with the farm shed details. So I have a lot of like farm tools, hay bales, cobwebs to sell the passage of time. And then laid on top of that, we have the chaos that the thieves and the smugglers have brought to this quiet little shed of spilled beer, cards thrown everywhere, uh, old food on plates left behind. I think that was a really good selling point for my project. I wanted to break down my cobwebs. So they're just really like simple planes that I had made into very like vague cobweb shapes. And then I took that into Substance Painter and I essentially drew on an opacity map, starting with these big structures and then filling in the wisps with like, you know, chaotic lines and all of that. Uh, and then transferring that into Unreal. I also wanted to give it wind. Um, so I made a mask. Uh, the white parts are where the wind is going to affect it the most, and of course the black is where it won't. So I wanted the parts where it connects to the walls to not move as much. And you can see here at the bottom it's very simple, just plugging it into a multiply with the simple grass wind. Got that effect for me. Um, and the same kind of philosophy with texturing uh is, you know, when I texture something, I want to know like how's that object used? Where was it? How old is it? So I wanted to show you in Substance Painter. I start with, can you guys see Substance Painter? Make sure I'm switching back and forth.
Yes,
Okay.
we can.
Um, so I want to start, and I pretty much do this with all of my assets. I start with, you know, what does it look like from the beginning, like brand new, and then just kind of layering on the story on top of it. So, you know, as these get used from year to year, people are going to be sitting down. There's going to be a lot of wear and tear where your butts are going to sit down and where your legs are going to rub up against the edges here. So that's where you add in the edge wear, you know, with masks and stuff. You know, maybe this chair has been thrown around a bunch, so you get a lot of extra detail around the sides. Uh, until eventually you get to the final product, which is here. And all that layered together, you get this. With this chair, I wanted it to be like painted several times throughout the years. Um, Starting with like this pale blue that maybe been setting in the sun, so it's faded a little bit, and then like this pale red that's kind of turned pink, and then finally on top like this dark maroon paint. Um, and then of course with all the years of wear, it's all you can start to see the layers shine through. Um, yeah, and then using that kind of same texturing philosophy, I apply that to the rest of the scene until we fill it in. Where's my There we go. Start filling it in, and then we can get the details. Yeah, let's jump into Unreal now. So I have a lot of decals over here. Helps sell like the mess, that has been left here over the ages. I have like decals here for like leaf litter of, what have they tracked in on their boots. And I really also wanted to sell like the snowstorm that's going on outside and snow coming in through the doorway. I believe the snow here is also a decal. I believe somewhere. It's probably under the wood. But there's also snow decals here, and I fill it in with some mega scans, pieces of snow, just kind of layered in there. Um, I am not a technical artist, so I paid for Easy Snow and Easy Fog by William Boucher, I think his name is. Uh, brilliant, brilliant guy. But since I'm not expected to be a tech artist applying as an environment artist, you don't really need to prove that, you've made all this on your own, as long as you give credit. Um, but yeah, with that combined with like the cobwebs, I wanted to sell it like there's a bit of wind coming in, and you got some snow and all that. Let's see. Let me look at my notes. Everything else I wanted to talk about. Some details that are cool that Ben had helped me with that I didn't think about, which is so great about reaching out to people and having a network, is I had originally modeled all of these cards to be like straight cards. Because like when you think about cards, it's like, yeah, they're flat. But, Ben had been like, okay, well, what if, they're playing a game and it's going bad and this guy's just like crumpling up his cards in anger, after all those years, all your cards are going to start to warp. And so that added like such a nice little level of detail to my cards. Thank you, Ben. Uh, what else? I guess I just wanted to kind of show that my project was also just a little box, like Susanna was talking about. To break the smoke and mirrors. I have a lot of planes out here to kind of help with the lighting that shines through the planks. Because without that, it would just be like really dark. And I wanted to sell the kind of like bright fogginess of the environment outside. And it's kind of funny to look at the bottom here and how these rocks are just kind of floating to fill in any gaps that the camera might pick up on. Yeah.
I'm a little speechless. The lighting is really awesome. William would be proud, you know what I mean?
Thank you.
Of course. That's all I could say. That's the truth.
Ben also helped a lot with he taught me how to make atmosphere with like the fog, and how you can apply volumetric lighting to your lights, which is really cool. So I added some
Is that
coming
with
through.
the light shaft blooms? Am I going crazy?
I
How
think
did you do
so.
that? Okay. I don't think I pulled that off yet. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's my project. I don't know if there's
Uh,
anything I could show off.
and as usual, folks, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. Um, what I do again, I always have questions for people. Um, Now, what was your process like? What was the most challenging part when you were creating this? Because it obviously, like, at a surface level, everyone, you can say that, oh, it's like it's a box on the outside, and I worked on this and I worked on that. But I'm sure there's always that one thing in every project that's like one of the most challenging things you have ever worked on. What was that one for you on this particular project?
Um, I really struggled with keeping myself focused. I think like what you said earlier about um getting caught up in the details and the nitty-gritty of things. I spent so much time going back and forth between my lighting and moving stuff around and just changing things so slightly. And it, I spent way too much time doing that instead of just getting stuff done and in and then just doing that all at once. Um, yeah, I really had to focus up and prioritize getting a good finished project out instead of just spending forever on things that aren't even as big of an impact of my project that I think it is.
That is like something I can relate to because the projects that I've worked on, it's sort of like a similar situation where my mentor, if they've caught me focusing too much on like the most trivial details, their first question is this going to show in the project? Like if this was either in a game or if this is a portfolio piece, is this something someone's going to zoom in and look at it? If not, you don't need to, focus so much on it because if it's not even showing, there's no point to it.
Yeah, exactly.
And another thing that I really liked about your project is like the small details, like the cards that you were mentioning that initially I created just really flat cards and then gave this idea that what if someone it's going wrong and someone's crumpling up their cards, like just having the small detail of like a card being bent or a card being crumpled, it just adds that much more character to the environment. Oh, I see a question coming in. How much would you say your speed improved after making full scenes during and after Vertex?
I would say a lot. A lot of my time was saved in the modeling stuff. Like I learned a lot at Vertex about making things modularly and building stuff on a grid. Um, and how you can reuse things. Uh, Something I wish I did on this scene is I wish I had taken more of a trim sheet approach. I think I would have saved a lot of time uh in a lot of my objects if I had made like one wood texture for like everything that's wood in here because there's so much in here that uses the wood texture. Um, yeah, I think that would have saved me a lot of time. But there's so many techniques in at at Vertex that I've learned. Um, and a lot with like the texture machine that we learned about early on
Yeah.
at Vertex. Uh, it's such a simple pipeline. But it's really quick and it has a really good impact on like your textures and stuff.
Yeah, the thing is there's just so many, like if you were to make a table, there's like 10 different ways you could make a table. And
Exactly.
the thing the thing with Vertex is that they're not going to teach you the 10 different ways to make a table. They're going to teach you what's the most effective and efficient way of making a table, effective and efficient in terms of your personal time, the amount of resources it's going to that's going to be consumed by your computer or your laptop, and what is going to help you when you are working in the industry and when you are like ready to step into the industry. And once you have, like, how do I phrase this? Okay, it's kind of like they give you a skill set and then you can just kind of go ahead and create whatever you want in whatever way you like using that skill set. So it just really helps a lot in the longer run, I would say. And it's also just given that we have just so many different mentors, it's just easy to get so many different perspectives because all these mentors work in different companies, different projects, they have different experiences. So it's just really helpful. Okay, we have one more question. Why did you all go with the environment artist path instead of character artist? One easier to get jobs than the other. Um, environments are the best. I'm going to say, for me personally, I'm going to say I went with environment art. I'm going to come clean on this. If you, I can't draw or create characters unless and until you're expecting a breathtakingly beautiful stick figure. do not I can't create characters. And for me, another reason I chose environment is um I like to live in a daydream. So I like the idea that I can, if I learn environment art, I can create places that I've made up in my mind where I can run away and just spend time away in peace, away from the world. That's sort of like a funny thing that goes on in my head. I'm sure every artist is weird. Nobody come for me because I know all you artists here, all of you are weird in one way or the other,
No, I
okay?
think you just called out like most environment artists in like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So
I'm just saying that everyone is like everyone has something funny going on in their heads. So for me, that's sort of a thing. I like to create like a runaway place. So yeah, I and also this is completely off the tangent, but I'm a big sucker for God rays. So that the God rays alone was good enough for me to be like, I want to go chase environment art. Yes, there you go.
valid, very valid. Yeah, this one was
Uh,
awesome. It the snow part with the God rays poking in gives me 1,000% William Foucher vibes. Like it just zoom in onto that door and he's like, today we got to talk about snow. And I'm like, all right.
Thank
How did you
Yeah.
make that snow, by the way?
Um, so the snow is just easy snow.
Oh
Like the
yeah,
snow
yeah, yeah, yeah.
particles. Uh,
Is
this
that mesh?
this is from Megaskins. I believe it is just like a solid mesh.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
They blend in very well, huh?
They blend in very well. Yeah. Oh, dude, mesh is just better. Mesh is better.
Yeah.
Always use mesh.
I
People make
see.
nanite look easy. They throw like the beach pebbles together and it like just looks good. Got it.
Hey, that
I see
take a
Ben
page from
has
your own book, Justin, as long as it looks good.
I appreciate that. I'll take that today. Thanks, man.
I see that Ben has a question. What do you want to do for the next 20 years of your 20? Wow, that's a long time. 20 years
No,
of your
sorry, I
life.
was I was just replying to Dana there where she's trying to where they're trying to work out what to do, and I said like just what
Oh,
do you imagine
okay.
yourself doing for 20
Yeah.
years? Like
Okay.
I would
basically
have started sweating if that was a student question. I'd be like,
20 years is a
no,
long
like
time to think.
when you're trying to work out what you want to do, it's like just imagine doing that for 20 years. It's like if I tried to make characters for 20 years, I don't know what I'd do. So just kind of think of it like that, I'd say.
I mean, 20 years with environment art is easy because my plan is I want to travel the world and every place I see, I want to convert it into a 3D
That's
environment.
cool. That's cool. You can do anything for 20 years with a standing desk and a treadmill. I just want to let you guys know that. Anything. I need to buy
Um,
one actually.
well, that's been an absolute blast. Thank you so much, Michaela.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
And finally, folks, we have Tiger, who's also a Vertex alumni, and now works at Maverick Games. I'm going to let him introduce himself and break down his project.
Hey, hey everyone. Wow. It's tough going last now because there's all these amazing people.
You're
Love
incredible.
seeing all
You
of
will do
that.
fantastic.
Thank you. But yeah, I'll share. I'll start by sharing screen. Um, um, so I'm a bit similar to the case of Lena, the other tutor that people were talking about. Well, I only have 2 projects, but I think I spent a lot more on mine than she did. She somehow managed to finish her scene in 3 months, which was like insane to me. But my project ended up so I overscoped like a crazy amount. Like I overscoped so much. Chico, my tutor, basically warned me that I wasn't gonna finish it in 3 months, and I was like, I'll show you. I didn't. And then Salvador warned me that I wasn't gonna finish this in 6 months. I was like, I'll show you. I didn't. But yeah, I ended up taking closer to 9 months for this in its entirety. Uh but yeah, I'll go through like my process from like beginning to end. Just to show that like, like even something that's overscoped, like, you know, at the very beginning, you kind of just like, once you start to break it down bit by bit, it's all really just like, yeah, it was a long time. Hang on. Get back to my screenshots. But yeah, this was the initial block out. I basically saw this like amazing tea house that I went to in China. It was literally like 2 weeks before term 2 started. I went here and I was like, oh my God, I know what I'm gonna make. Like, yeah, and I showed this to Chico. He freaked out. He was like, "You're good." I was like, because underneath there was supposed to be like a library and everything, and I was like, "I'm gonna do it," and he's like, "No, you're not. Don't do that. Let's cut all of that." And thank God. Because yeah, just the roof alone took me like weeks on weeks on weeks on weeks. But yeah, I'll just go through some of these screenshots. One of the things I always get told about, I tell my students now, and I still get told this at, you know, at work if I'm forget to do it, but it's always get it into engine as soon as possible. Just so you can see it in context, you can fill the space, walk around it, you know, get some lights on it, get some basic lights on it. Initially, I wanted to have a tree in the middle. So I started doing that because Chico is a vegetation artist. And then we decided it was way too big for the space. So yeah, we scrapped it completely. And I just kept trying to do some of the other stuff. I tried to figure out the roofs really early on because, you know, that was like something I was really worried about with the project, whether I could pull it off or not. I just used a crap ton of mesh. I was like really nervous actually about how much triangles I was using. So I cut it down by quite a lot. Like each tile only has like 12 tries or something. When that's all together, it's still like a 30K mesh, which is insane. But in hindsight, now when I look back at it, for some reason, I actually regret not putting more triangles on things and getting more, like making it more highly detailed, because I wanted to do some shots of like, at the end I wanted to do some camera shots of like from top to the below. And then, you know, I also the hand sculpted some of the like the letters on some of these tiles and things, but because I made it too low poly, it looked really crap up close. So I couldn't do that, and I kind of regret going too hard on the budget thing. So yeah, you know, I really agree with what Justin mentioned like half an hour ago with just really focus on the fact that you're not making a game, you're making a scene and you're making an environment and you're making it look incredible. There's ways to show that you can optimize, but I really think when it comes to optimizing and taking the time, because optimizing takes a lot of time, right? If you're not able to retain quality, I would now, from this point on, I would always try and go towards quality. But yeah, like here I did the low poly underneath. This was good because underneath there didn't need to be any more detail. There was already all the tiles. So the underneath bit was pretty cool. And then there was all of these crazy ornaments, which I basically began tracing over. I did a couple of methods for this, trial and error, and yeah, like when it finally clicked, it was basically took this into ZBrush with like messy topology, and then I just hand sculpted everything. It was really tedious. This is where I think I'm like the polar opposite of Justin, where instead of like trying to find the smart way to do things, I just sometimes I just brute force things. There's a million ways I would do things faster now. Like I would have used you know, I would have made an alpha out of this, and I would have like there's a lot of ways I could have done it faster. But at the time, sometimes, you know, if you don't have the knowledge and you don't have the time, you just have to brute force it. But yeah, baked it all down. Luckily, it was all great. Was really happy with this when I like started seeing, like when I put this into scene, I was like, it kind of like started to like I feel like everything that you manage to get into scene is always just such a nice boost of confidence. Which is why you just gotta keep going. I think that was something really nice about like having both the lab tutor and my main tutor is both Chico and Salvador was just every week telling me, hey, it's okay, just keep going, just one thing at a time, just keep going. And I think I needed to just like hear that and slowly build up my confidence. Here's me trying to color match one of the photos that I had. But yeah, made this trim. Changed it a bunch of times. This trim got changed so many times. Trims change a lot. Yeah, this is where I was after 3 months of working at this. As you can see, it's still a really huge far cry from what it was at the end. So yeah, there's no way I definitely overscoped, but I also was like really happy that I did. Like I think if you're going to overscope, make sure it's a project that you can look at every single day for literally months on end and not think like, God, I'm so sick of this. Like I think it was only towards like the last couple of like last 2 months, I was like, okay, I really just want to get this done now. Up until then, it was all really exciting. But yeah, now I needed to fill it with some props. So I started like sculpting like ginseng. But yeah, just like started blocking out a lot of props. I think this is something I'm quite happy with. I like looking back now, I'm quite pleased with how I started to get things into Engine just to test them out. But I have a feeling that probably was Salvador climbing on my back and telling me to do that.
Can I ask? Okay, I think you're gonna get into it, but some of the ornamental modeling, for example, on the legs of that
Oh yeah.
seat, it's just blowing my mind. Like I actually would not know where to start with that guy.
It's tracing.
Okay,
It's
okay.
a lot of
That's
tracing and
awesome.
extruding.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and then if it's not as like square as you'd expect it to be, a lot of just like chipping at it
No, we got to
in
work together.
ZBrush.
You just unlocked the whole world for me. Thanks, man.
That's all right. Yeah, it's tedious. There's definitely like I only feel like you get better at this sort of stuff the more you do it. There's
hmm
shortcuts. But I just brute forced it. You know, I wanted the results, but I didn't have the techniques, so I just
That
had
is
to
the
give the
technique.
time.
It's so good though. So fantastic.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So this is when I basically looked at the middle of my scene and I still was just like you know, the middle originally there was that big tree in the reference which was really cool. Like there was this like glass bit in the middle and I wanted something there, but I didn't want to do foliage, or rather like I didn't want to do foliage unless it was big and grand. So I decided I wanted to do like, I think at this same time there was this tutorial on EXP points that was like made free, which was really good timing. It was like of a dragon vase. So I was like, I want to do a furnace. Because one of my favorite temples in China, in Shanghai, that I go to has this like huge incense burning burner thing. And it's like really ornamental. And yeah, so here's me blocking out nubs, nubs, literal nubs. But you know, I could see it like in my head. I was like, oh, I want the dragon to be like wrapped around this thing, and I can imagine it kind of how it flows. I tried out a couple of, you know, I tried even at one point. I tried having two different dragons, like sort of like yin and yang, and like crossing over each other. But yeah. Then I just started sculpting on the body of the furnace. It was a lot of sculpting. This whole prop took me like 1 month just to do the high poly sculpt. Again, there's techniques I could have done to speed up my process, but I just really wanted to make it look as high quality as possible. So I didn't want to resort to alphas because it didn't give me quite the results I want. But now that I've like done a lot more sculpting at work as well, I realized it was because I wasn't using the right features. So yeah. Then I looked at like a bunch of references, started getting some scales together. This was thanks to the tutorial. I didn't have to hand sculpt this. I just had to make one section and then use that section to kind of like just displace the rest of the tube. Yeah, and then I still went back in to sculpt some more like scratches and defining features just to break it up a bit more. At this point, I was like getting really confident. This is like about like 3-4 weeks in with this, like all of these like practices. That's why I decided to do the body of the furnace first, because I was like, I'm gonna save the dragon for last because that's gonna be so hard. I actually managed to sculpt this head in the space of a day, which was like a really big step of confidence for me. But yeah, now I'm just wrapping it up, adding more details, added the legs, sculpted that. The low poly was an absolute nightmare. Well, I don't think I can call it a low poly. This is terrifying to most of you. But I really did try having an even lower poly than this, but the bake just looked really, really awful. The bake didn't capture like the silhouette at all. And I needed to do a manual retopology like you would do characters if I wanted to like capture the silhouette and also like be really low poly, which I just didn't have the time to do. So I decided to just like go a bit all out. I think the whole prop overall was like 50K triangles low poly. I've got it open up here. But yeah, like each of these is like 20. Oh, it was 370, which is I obviously it can be optimized a bit more, way more. But in like I wanted to not spend too much more time, and I also wanted to retain the quality of having like that detail. So I sacrificed performance, but again, we're making a still image. We're making a rendered video. We're not making an active game. So
Well, I really like this. You know, games are becoming so much more polygon heavy that this is the first time I've seen someone show me a very high poly workflow without nanite involved. To me, it's genius. I love this.
yeah, I don't know how because to be fair, Unreal can handle a lot even without nanite. Even without nanite, game engines these days can go pretty decently high in one scene. There's
Mhm.
you know
But that pipeline isn't talked about enough. So the fact that it's like this is low poly, you're just the first person I've seen to give it that AAA poly count. So it's just really, really cool.
yeah, this is if you do this though, like maybe don't show it, or at least like be really confident in your reasoning for why you're doing this.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Luckily, when I interviewed, actually, like no one asked about this. They just said it looks good and moved on, and nobody asked about the poly counts. And I was interviewing mostly with AAA game studios, so maybe that's why.
That's interesting. I gotta digest that. That's awesome.
But yeah, I was really emotional when I got this into Engine. I was like because I've been working on it for like a month at this point. So if it didn't look good when it went in, uh, I was gonna be really, really upset. But luckily, I think I was like really happy with how it looked. That also it kind of made me feel like bad about the rest of the scene. Like I needed to push the rest of the scene up a lot more. But yeah, so I started working on the rest. Started testing out some different lighting scenes. With the help of Salvador, my tutor. But yeah, started working on the night scene. This is around the time when like Black Myth Wukong was like getting trailers and things. So I found like one of the scenes in there. I was like, oh, I'm gonna try and recreate this lighting. So I did a lot of matching for that actually. Me. Yeah, like a lot of the skies. I try to match that feeling quite a bit. But yeah, kept pushing with the props, texturing these books and just like trying to match references that I found that I really liked. Got a couple of these books in. Well, this is when I started cinematic camera just makes everything better. Like look at how gamey this looks, and then I put the cinematic camera in and it's like, oh, this looks way cooler. But yeah, I started trying out different compositions, really studying like how to balance an image. which I went to a little bit. I went into a little bit in my breakdown, where I was really thinking about like each camera shots and how, like, you know, what we're focused on looking at. Is there enough contrast? Is there, you know, if there's enough focus and balance. But yeah, like here I really try to have everything just like point towards the book, and then you have like this natural like line of objects that like flowing this way, and then using the table as like a vignette. But yeah, just really thinking about these type of things now that it's like closer to the end game. Started getting some decals in finally. I actually did try retopologizing my dragon. But I got hired before I could finish, so it's still not retopologized properly. I think even then, like I would have like probably doubled down on like the body and maybe given it some more triangles, just to really get the silhouette through. But yeah, I'm gonna fly around my scene for a little bit now. I've got some. I'll go through some of the cameras. Like I set up a lot of cameras just to play around with. Like I think the cool thing for this was like, you know, for each of the cameras, after I set up the cameras, I started putting some random lights in and things like that, like that don't disturb the real like overall shot, but like it doesn't make sense at all. But it made the actual cameras that I set up look a lot nicer. So you have that like some more detail. Otherwise, originally it was like super, super dark. This was like when I found this, I knew this was gonna be like the money shot, the cover for like my art station and everything, just because wait, yeah. I think I just cropped this actually. But yeah, like it flowed really, really nicely. You had the roof pointing towards like it all magically kind of just like clicked. And I was like, okay, this is great. And you know, there's like natural shadows happening there, just given the lighting, and then you have like I don't know how this shot came to be. This shot was just like the happiest accident I could have stumbled on.
You're crazy, dude. This is the most insane thing ever. I'm just like, I'm shocked. This is really good.
Thank you so much.
I shouldn't have gone first.
We do have like a few questions coming in. There's one that Kayla was asking. What advice do you have for making metallic textures look interesting?
References is my answer. Look at really degraded materials that are like, you know, really seen it through the times. Let me get a nice camera. Yeah, let's get the focus back. Yeah, like just looking at your references, right? Like find materials that like look the part that you want, and then just try and match it. I did this all in Substance Painter. I'm actually like I want to let people know that if you don't want to learn Substance Designer, it's absolutely okay, because there was zero Substance Designer used in this project. I have it here because I like dabbled in it for like a second. Just so you know, when I was looking for jobs and things like that, I could be like, say, yeah, I know the basics of designer. I really don't. I just really tried to dive full into Painter and do as much Painter as possible. Yeah, and I think the strong suit about Painter is like, you know, and with some of these materials is you can set up a smart shader, and then the actual mask you can, you know, do the painting. Like that's something I feel like I know the name is Substance Painter, but I didn't start doing that until like halfway through the project. And once I did, there was like no going back. I was like, this is great. Like I can actually have all the custom details that I want. And then, you know, once you start painting with like over the mask and getting that detail in, you can then add more procedural stuff to eat away at the mask that you just painted to make it look even more natural and broken up.
Oh, like
But yeah,
vertex
references.
painting.
Yeah, kind of like vertex painting, except it's just you're just painting straight onto the texture sheet
Yeah. That's cool.
in Painter.
Tiger, I got a question. It has to be answered. Can we get a look at the building?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Uh,
Okay. All right. It's so beautiful. I'm curious what's going on, and I think I had to use the restroom. Let's go lower. I want to take a look at the trims. The trims with the nice text inside. Yeah, there we go. What is going on there? How did you create that, and why is it blowing my mind?
Um, it was a sculpt. It was a
Okay.
sculpt. It was a sculpt. I took I think 2 weeks each. I took 2 weeks for this to sculpt this. And then I took 2 weeks to sculpt. Let me find one where the light is hitting it. Like I sculpted this.
Okay. So even the thin trims are sculpted and like duplicated around.
Yes, yeah. They're sculpted and then duplicated and then sculpted again for more detail.
So you have a very baked heavy workflow, right? You're sculpting something, you're decimating it, you're putting it in Painter, and then you put it in Unreal. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool,
I'm
cool.
not a designer wizard. I didn't really have the time nor I don't think I was the right person to do that as well. Like
No,
I don't really
your
get noticed
workflow
that well.
works great for this style because you're a good sculptor, you extract topology pretty much out of every detail we're seeing here. I'm guessing you arrayed a bunch of different sculpted roof tiles all over the
Yeah,
place too.
yeah, yeah. These are all on splines. Again, this is why I wish I used way more triangles because these were all custom sculpted tiles as well, and they
Hmm.
looked better. And like I would redo the roof. I think like that's like I come back and look at this project. I'm pretty happy with
Sure.
most things, but like I can't. I really wanted a cool shot like something like
Ooh.
this or like from up here, right?
That does
Um,
work kind of.
but yeah, the tiles just you can really start to see the stepping because
Hmm.
I made a really low poly, so that's something I wish I
Well then,
uh
I
crazy
just
to
think
be
it's
saying, but I
great.
wish I used more triangles. um
I love that though. You have a very this is the first time I've seen such a geometry heavy based workflow where you're like, I know the environment can be made with just like ZBrush and Painter. And to me, Tiger, that's so inspiring to see. I really love that.
Thank you. It was less of a choice for me more than it just I didn't want to get into
But look
I
what
didn't
comes
want
out
to
of
get
it.
into the
It
signer.
creates something so different and awesome. So it totally worked out.
Uh,
Yeah, I was lucky.
Hmm.
we
Yeah.
have one more question. What focal length and aperture did you use for like a lot of your shots?
Oh, let me go to my camera. Like, I think I used 60 focal lengths. Anything more than that, like, because I really like the idea of because I was told that anything around 30, you're trying to like zoom out and see the whole environment, and then anything closer to like 50, 60, you're looking more at like portraits of people. That's usually typically what those photograph settings are for. And I kind of wanted to just do that with my props and everything. Is just feel like it's like intimate and close up and detailed. So I didn't really go too low on the focal length at all. The camera settings were all really wide camera settings. Just because these just like naturally look automatically cinematic once you start doing these aspect ratios. Um, so yeah, that's the tricks. It's all smoke and mirrors, right? Like these are the things that our brain associate with like this type of like aspect ratio, um, and blurring it a lot helps, like because then you can have focus, and then like
Hmm.
playing with all the settings, like adding like manually tweaking the exposure and things like that. Yeah.
Oh, last,
Uh,
is there a special like color or setting on your exponential height fog, or is it just pretty basic?
So like I'm not Salvador. I don't know
Because Salvador is
I
so
don't
good
know the
with the fog,
science.
man. Yeah,
He's so good. He's
he's
so
so
good.
good with the fog.
he kind of just gave me like my workflow with him was just like him going like, okay, here are the tools that you would typically have for lighting, and then he was like, okay, here is the science. I was like, I don't want to hear the science, and then I just went in and I tweaked it with like just looking at my references, and like the numbers are definitely like all messed up. Like I've watched this whole like comprehensive video on lighting, and I'm all over the place. I don't know any of that properly, but
I
yeah,
love
I
that.
just
That's an
tweaked it.
inspiring story. Like I'm trying to be like you. Like forget the numbers. Let me just get it to
No,
look
no,
good.
no. I need to be more like that. The numbers are good. The
Let's switch
numbers are
places, man.
standardized.
Very cool. No, I appreciate you answering my questions too. This was great.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you for asking the questions.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Folks, if you have more questions for Tiger, feel free to pop them in the chat. I'm going to try and not shoot this more over time than what we already are. But while people figure out, I'm just gonna give it a moment to see if there are any more questions for Tiger. Again, I do have some questions. So from like the beginning to like the end of your entire Vertex journey, one, what was your journey like? And two, from your angle, what was the most important skill set you learned that now helps you in your job in the industry? And also, how did Vertex help you with like landing a job?
I'm gonna answer that last bit because it's really easy. Chico literally took my portfolio and blasted it to his network. So he blasted it to his friends, blasted it to like people that he knew that were in the industry. And the art director at Maverick Games used to work with Chico. So he basically was like, yo, this portfolio like looks great. Let's get him for an interview. So then Chico grabbed me into a chat on LinkedIn with him. Then I spoke to Ben, and pretty much Ben, the art director, and then pretty much within I think it's within I was hired on during May, early May, and I finished my project like early March. So within 2 months, and that was only because the art director had like GDC and things to go to that they didn't reply for a couple of weeks, so the interview was like paused. But yeah, that was went really easily for me because of Vertex, right? But I it couldn't have happened if I didn't know Chico and have that like network of people that he has. Sorry, what was the other question?
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Well,
Let's
it was from like the beginning to finish, what was your Vertex journey like, and what was the one skill set that you learned that helps you in your day job now?
My entire Vertex journey was just like it was really cathartic because I spent 5 years learning graphic design at university, and then I couldn't get a job afterwards. I was like um just like picking up like scrap jobs, and then I didn't really enjoy the stuff that I was doing as well. So like getting into Vertex like was just, I don't know how I found it. Like one morning I was just like browsing the internet and I found Vertex, and then basically by that afternoon I spoke to my parents, and then I applied, and it was like, yeah, like every time I made anything, from like the barrel in like term one to like every bit of progress that I had from then on out, it was just really cathartic. It was like, oh, I'm doing it. This is what I've always wanted to do, and I'm doing it. Um and I can't really tell you what the one skill set that I learned from Vertex was, because everything like all of the hiring triggers that Vertex teaches you is like pretty on point. It's things that I talk about to this day to like, whether it's my students or if I'm at an event or I'm visiting a university and people are asking me about like it's the same stuff, right? Like it's the same hiring triggers that Vertex School is so focused on. But yeah, like these are skills and like bread and butter of an environment artist that I use day to day, like all of this stuff. Um,
Okay,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
yeah, That's great to know. With that being said, before we wrap up, Ben, do you have any final words any final input you'd like to give before I start wrapping up for the event?
I mean, if people aren't inspired to go and do 3D art and join games courses after seeing all that sort of work, then I don't know what will. So yeah, it was really, really good. Like I love seeing it's a really, really diverse sort of kind of portfolios and different techniques as well. You know, you got Justin who uses every single trick under the book, and then you got Tiger who didn't know tricks at the start and then just did everything manually, and then you've
And yet
got
I like his more.
Michaela bought some assets and stuff and like to put in the background stuff to not waste time. Is like there's so many different ways. Just find whatever you want to make and just find the best way to make it for you.
Whoever's here, I want to apologize. I think everyone else was a little more prepared than me. I'm doing a lot of job interviews right now, and so Unreal's materials weren't responding, and then I forgot to open up my designer file. But check out my YouTube channel, and literally I'll show you everything I know. And I got a Discord channel, and you can learn more from me there. But seriously, I'm so sorry. My thing was more philosophical. I hope you gained something out of it.
With that being said, well, folks, there you have it. Like you've heard from our mentors, you've heard from our alumni, you've seen like some of the really cool stuff that they have worked on. Um, with that being said, I do want to mention that enrollment for the summer cohort is closing on June 30th. Obviously, we have like a fall and a winter cohort as well for which you can apply to. The application process is like super simple. You just go onto the website. I'm just gonna drop a link in the chat. So if you guys are interested, just check out the website, check out the page, hit the apply button. It's a super simple form, fill it out, and it'll kind of prompt you to book a call with our admissions officer. The call is nothing too serious. The call is just to get a good gauge on what your aspirations are, what kind of art do you like, is the course a good fit for you, how to align the course to your expectations and stuff like that, basically. So that's what the application process is like. And also another thing I do want to mention is that you will, when you go onto the page, you will see that the entire course is basically split into 3 terms. So you don't have to get all 3 terms in a single go. If you feel like you want to get 1 term at a time to begin with, that you are more than welcome to do that. Like, for example, if you already have some experience and you feel like I want to skip term 1, go to term 2 directly, you're more than welcome to just go to term 2 if you want to. So yeah, check out the website. I hope you guys enjoyed today's session. Big shout out to Ben and all the alumni for bringing the heat, showing off some really cool artwork, some really cool techniques that they've worked on. And thanks for joining us today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you for the next one. Thanks a ton, guys.
Thank you for having me, and thanks
Thank
for getting the
you.
gang back together. It was amazing seeing you guys. So keep in touch, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Have a great one.
Thank
Bye,
you,
guys.
everyone.
Bye.
Big
Bye-bye.
round.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.